It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new stuff from the House of Lords. That is the first track from the record. That tune is called Harlequin. The name of the record is Saint of the Lost Souls, and here is the Saint of the House of Lords, I think. It is the one and only guitarist, Jimi Bell. Jimmy, how are you, man?
I'm wonderful, Chris. Thank you so much for having me on.
Sure.
We truly appreciate it, and truly appreciate your support on the record.
Certainly, man. Well, Jimmy, I got to tell you, man, it's for a lot of bands, when I get a new record, I sort of know what I'm going to get. You know, it's like, you know, when you do this a lot, you get 100 records a week, and you know the bands, you know what you're going to get. House of Lords, never been that way at all. House of Lords is always, you guys have always, certainly there's a core sound, but there's always variations and changes, and some records are heavier than others, and some are keyboard laden, more keyboard laden than others. It's always interesting to get something from you guys because you guys are pretty adventurous. You know, is that a purpose move for you guys to try different things with each release? You know, to keep it fresh for yourself or the fans or both, or what?
Yes, absolutely. We always try to do something a little different each record. You know, constantly trying to reinvent the band, you know, or, you know, just give the fans something different. So, like, you know, since I joined in 2005, because of the fact, you know, that I'm a guitar player and I write heavy riffs, you know, the songs went a little bit heavier than they were back in the old days, you know, from the early records where they were more keyboard heavy.
Sure.
This time, you know, on this record, we decided we wanted to bring that back. We wanted to try to bring the keyboards, you know, into the tracks more. Although all of the House of Lords songs since I've joined have had, you know, a good amount of keyboards throughout them. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you just never know, you know, what you're always trying different things, you know, and we found that these songs just led to have, you know, more keyboards on them. So it worked out really good. You know, James does all the keyboards on the songs, with the exception of Harlequin, which we had the incredible Mikkel Lupi from Whitesnake, who did an amazing job on the intro and played throughout the song. It was fabulous.
Sure.
And a real honor to have him on the track.
Definitely, man. And you brought that up. That was a place I was going to go. This record is definitely a lot more keyboard driven than other releases. And you mentioned that you wanted to go that direction this time. Why was that? Did you feel like it was like maybe you got away from something that was a core to the band with the last few records?
Well, I don't really know. You know, when we write something, we don't really know. I'll tell you our writing system, and maybe this will help you understand. Like, I work with the drummer BJ Zamp on everything.
Sure.
What I do is I'll come up with a foundation of a song. Like I'll write like a complete song. Not lyrics or melodies or anything, just the music part. Mm-hmm. And I'll go over and I'll present it to BJ, and we'll work on it because he's a very good arranger, a very good writer himself. And I say, what do you think? He goes, this is either he'll say this is really good the way it is, or he say, well, okay, well, let's, you know, shorten this, move this, you know, this and that. So we work it up. We record it as if it's a track. We don't do a demo. When we record as this is the final take.
Okay.
You know, this is what we do. Because if, you know, once we send it to James and if he says he loves it, there's no sense of us, you know, sending it back and re-recording it. So we always try to do it as a polished take solo. So we'll send him 2 guitar tracks, drums, bass, and a lead, you know, my lead guitar. Then, you know, we'll send it down to James, and then he says he'll either pass on it or say, yeah, this is good, and he'll work on it. And then he adds all the keyboards and the melodies and the harmonies and everything. So really, when we get the song back, we don't really know what we're getting back once he sends it. You know, it's like all of a sudden we'll hear it and we're blown away with what's been done to the song. I'll give you an example of one of the tracks.
Okay.
The song Rain of Fire, for example. That song, when I wrote it, it was more or less a basic AC/DC type track. It had that type of vibe to it. And the bridge, you know, everything modulated the way a House of Lords song should, but it had a certain drive to it.
Sure.
When we got the song back, from James, he added all these amazing harmonies and a mini moog and all this stuff. And that one particular tune to me really brought it back to the early House of Lords days.
Awesome.
And that's one thing we wanted to try. We wanted to let the fans, hear songs that they would really love and get that vibe again from the early days.
Sure. Now doing it that way to where you pretty much are recording a track completely, it's got to be frustrating when James doesn't like it or doesn't get a vibe, because you do put a lot more time. I mean, I've been around. I'm not a musician myself, but I've been around musicians enough to know that when you record, you really put your heart and soul into every note to get it right. That's got to be frustrating.
Exactly.
when you send something completed and then he's like, not feeling this one.
Well, here's the deal. We send James a good 16 to 20 songs for every record.
Okay.
We write. I mean, we're constantly writing. I'm still writing. I write songs every day. I've got stuff all lined up for another record already.
All right, wow.
So you just never know what he's going to feel. But he's very good at picking out what he thinks is perfect for House of Lords. And and when we get him back, he's 100% right. We know that he's picked the right tunes. You could hear it as soon as we put him on and say, "Oh my God, listen to what he did with this." It's incredible. But I hear what you're saying. It's a matter of, trial and error. You write something. It's not everything you write is gonna, hit them exactly the same way, but we're very pleased with what we're doing.
Absolutely.
For him.
Now, Jimmy, one of the things, for most of the band's history, and since we're talking about James a little bit too, for most of the band's history, especially since Power and the Myth, most considered, or before Power and the Myth, most considered House of Lords to be James's band. I think that has kind of changed a lot, since Power and the Myth. I think a lot of people now think of you and him as a writing team. Do you A, feel that, and B, are you happy that it has kind of transitioned away from being, the James Christian band?
Well, let's put it this way. We're actually a writing team, but it's not just me and James. It's actually all four of us.
Okay.
And our new bassist that we just got into the band, Chris Tristram, who was formerly with Jack Russell, he happens to be a very good writer and an amazing bass player and singer, and he's been a pleasure to get into this band. He's the most perfect fit we could have ever asked for. But we like to, all the records prior, we've done it pretty much all together. If let's put it this way, if I sent James a song and he wasn't like 100% on it,
mm-hmm.
and we kind of said, oh no, listen to that again, really listen to this track. We think that it's right for the band. He will. He won't just say, no, this is not good, and then, throw it away.
Okay.
He's not like that. So, but we have a good system. We have a really good system of writing, and it's really good, because when I first got into the band, when he first approached me, he said to me, listen, we have to go back to the, I'm going to do start up House of Lords again. We have to go back to the original sound as much as possible. And that's when we did World Upside Down. He says to me, did you ever write a melodic rock song? And I never did in my life, but of course I said yes.
Sure, all the time.
That's exactly what it was. I wasn't going to pass up a chance to not be in House of Lords. So I said, absolutely, I know how to write melodic rock songs. And what I did was we sent him a couple things. Now I write heavier riffs, but by the time I send them to him, and he does his magic to them, adds the keyboards, adds the vocal lines, adds the harmonies, it turns even the heaviest riff into a melodic rock song. And to me, that's the magic right there, what he does.
Sure.
It really, makes the whole song come alive.
Sure. But, and at the same time, though, I think you don't give yourself enough credit there, because, you know as well as I do, every guitarist's desire is to play faster and harder and, a heavier with more notes in 4 bars. How do you fight that desire now? I mean, because you're saying he does magic to it, but if you were giving him, I don't know, corn riffs, he's not going to turn that into a House of Lords song. So there's a part of it that's you.
We definitely, especially after all these records. I mean, we just did number 7 with him.
Sure.
And we know what he's looking for. We actually learned after even the first record. But World Upside Down really put that band back on the map. I mean, I don't know too much about the previous record, Power and the Myth. All I know is that it had some really good tracks on it, but from what I hear, it wasn't well received by the fans.
Right.
They changed it up a little bit. So, we wanted to make sure that we, got the fans back on board. And I believe we did. And it's been going really well for the whole, all 7 records. But,
sure.
As far as putting a lot of notes in, it's true, especially in the soloing, like on this record,
mm-hmm.
I decided to do something a little different because of a friend of mine had actually suggested it. He says, have you ever thought about working out your solos in advance? I've never worked out my guitar solos in advance.
Okay.
Usually what happens is I go into the studio, and when it comes time for the solo section, I do about 3 or 4 passages of different solos, and then we pick which one we like the best. And we say, oh, yeah, that one's a good one.
Okay.
This time I sat down with the solo sections and, prepared something. And it worked out like 1,000% better, and I wish I had done it for all the records.
Sure.
I'm still learning. What do you know?
Now, when you did that, I'm curious on that. Did you do that, work out the solos before you gave the stuff to James to put his touch on?
Yes, I had all the solos worked out, and before we even sent the tracks down.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure on these tracks that we did that I had a good amount of melody in my solos, but still show that my style of playing, which is a lot of fast playing and
sure,
fiery lines or whatever you want to say they are. But that's the way I play.
Sure. Just listening to how you guys construct the songs like that, you guys must really, more than a lot of bands, you must really be on the same page. And specifically this part that you just said about to record the solos without hearing where the vocal is going to take you to this, because, I mean, we all know song structure with the, bridge, chorus, bridge, solo,
right.
chorus, to have that in your head and be on the same page with him, with James, before he writes lyric 1, that's pretty, that's a pretty daring move there. That's something I don't think most bands do.
Well, after working with him for as long as we have, we really, we know how to write together. That's the thing. Like when we were talking before, it's definitely a group thing. We know how each other thinks. Now, a lot of times, once he puts the vocals on, he'll send back something and say, Jimmy, will you play, a lead line going out, something a little melodic with that matches what the vocal does. So, sometimes I'll go in there and put another little piece on after he does the vocal line.
Sure.
But, everything's been, pretty spot on for this record. It went really smooth. It went a lot smoother than I even anticipated. Like every song was pretty much like, wow, when they came through.
Sure. Now we opened this interview with the song Harlequin, which is also the first song on the disc. Very cool song. Maybe a little bit of a darker vibe than most of the other stuff, not only on this record, but in the whole band's career. What was going on with that song, and why? Or am I reading it completely wrong? That it does feel
no, you're
darker?
You're reading it 100% right. See, my influence as a guitar player, span from all over the place, but my main influence was always Ritchie Blackmore.
Okay.
And Deep Purple. And, when you listen to some of the Rainbow stuff when Dio was in the band, he went into a lot of Arabian type vibes and stuff like that. This whole thing was, made up of that type of thing. I was very inspired for that type of stuff. And Richie's always been a big influence, and I feel that Harlequin, the main riff there, is like that.
Sure.
It's got that, that Mid-Eastern vibe to it. It's very, very cool.
Excellent, man. Well, it's a cool track. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of cool tracks on here. There's and as always, there's a lot of different flavors. You've got faster tunes. You've got songs like "Hit the Wall" that are sort of mid-tempo. You got slower tunes.
That's one of my favorite tracks on the record, actually.
"Hit the
Believe
Wall"
it or not. I like the whole vibe of it. Even though it's a mid-tempo ballad, it just has great. The chorus really lifts up, and I like the solo section and everything about it. It's just really great track.
If I had to offer an opinion, I would say it's also the best track on the record as far as the layering of the instrumentation. It's not that anything doesn't layer together well, but this is one where the keys build off the guitars, which builds off the rhythm section, which is complemented by James's voice better than probably anything else on the record.
Exactly. Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that.
Sure.
Sure.
Now, Jimmy, let's move away from the record a little bit and just talk about the business in general, because it's so different even from when you joined House of Lords. It's not the same business that you joined. Do you think I'll let you know what I think, and then you tell me if you think I'm even close. I honestly think that the business itself is kind of in purgatory right now, between the old business model of how, you made a record, you toured it, you made your money, you took a break, and then repeat, to where whatever it's going to become to sell music in the future. I don't think they've figured it out. I know, they have Spotify or streaming services, and you've got downloads and all that, and I don't think any of that is helping any of you bands at all.
No, you're right.
Do you think that
you're 100% right on that?
Do you think that we're in between, or do you think that maybe the industry itself is just kind of done?
No, I don't think the industry is done. In fact, I see a resurgence of this type stuff going on with, especially a lot of the '80s bands and stuff like that. I think there's I think we're moving up again. I really do.
Okay.
Now, I know, for example, like when we do a record, we always go to Europe right afterwards. We go and do a tour. Mm-hmm. And they have a tremendous fan base for House of Lords, over there. When we play, you get all different ages of people that come out that are older, and, some people bring their kids to see the band, and you see the younger crowd, and a huge mix. And, what we want to try to do is, again, come back into the U.S. now and build that up and, do shows and, festivals and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, things have changed a bit in the industry, but I think it's making its way back around again, me personally.
Okay. Excellent, man. Well, dude, one thing that is making its way around again personally is the brand new record from House of Lords. It is called Saint of the Lost Souls. Excellent record. I definitely suggest people check it out. Now, Jimmy, where can people go online to find out more about the band and tour dates and all that good stuff?
We have a brand new website, an official website. It's houseoflordsband.com.
Okay.
We also have our Facebook page, which is House of Lords Legends of Rock page on Facebook. And, of course, my personal pages, anybody wants to look me up, you're more than welcome to. I post everything on there, all the dates. But everything will be on the House of Lords website, houseoflordsband.com.
All right. Excellent.
And, of course, Frontiers will be posting stuff, Frontier Records, and, incredible label.
Sure. Definitely, man.
Yeah, they'll have everything. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yep. Just Google House of Lords. You'll find them.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Well, Jimmy, as a tradition on the show, we always have the artist pick a closing track from the record and tell us a story about it to end the interview. So what should we wrap this one up with?
Well, I'd like to use the title track myself because it was the first song that I presented to James off the record, and it's my favorite because it has the all the energy, and it has the my favorite guitar solo on the record. So Saint of the Lost Soul. That's the track I'd love to hear.
All right, well let's let people hear it right now. This is Saint of the Lost Souls. It is House of Lords right here on your Classic Metal Show.